Hello, this is Pastor Malin Smith, and I want to welcome you again to our ongoing study through the Young Baptist Catechism by Adam Morell. And today we're going to be looking at question 4, who made you? And the answer is, God made me. Now just to review where we have traveled thus far, we've looked at the first 3 questions, and let me just review them for you. The first question was, who is the first and greatest of all beings? Answer, God is the first and greatest of all beings. Question 2, how do we know God exists? Answer, God reveals himself to us. Question 3, how does he reveal himself to us? Answer, God reveals himself to us through nature, the Bible, and Jesus Christ. Now, if you are teaching someone through the Catechism, it's very important for us to realize that the questions are arranged in somewhat of a topical fashion. Now, as we can tell in these first 3 questions, we're dealing primarily with how God makes himself known to us. And then what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of questions, we're going to be talking about God's relationship to creation and his act thereof. And so again, today's question, question 4, is, who made you? Answer, God made me. So let's look at some scriptures. Psalm 139, verse 13 says, for you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. That's Psalm 139, verse 13. And then the prophet Jeremiah writes, in Jeremiah 1, verse 5, before I formed you, now this is the Lord speaking here, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you a prophet to the nations. That's Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. Now let's get some summaries of this question and its answer. Because again, the question is, who made you? And the answer is, God made me. And that's why it's sometimes is helpful to look back through some of our Baptist confessions, because they are wonderful statements and summaries of what the Bible teaches in the doctrine of creation. The Baptist Faith and Message 2000 says, quote, man is the special creation of God, made in his own image. He created them male and female as the crowning work of his creation. The gift of gender is thus part of the goodness of God's creation. In the beginning, man was innocent of sin and was endowed by his Creator with freedom of choice, end quote. Now I want to point out to your attention there the third sentence. The gift of gender is thus part of the goodness of God's creation. And this is very important for us to remember the importance of the doctrine of creation. And among other things, especially in the current contemporary discussion about gender, it's good for us to be reminded of the fact that gender is biologically grounded. And because of the fact that God created us in his image, we thus derive and define our identity not from what we define it, but rather by what God has had to say about it in his word. And thus it's very important, especially if you're teaching young people, to remind them that they just can't simply pick their own gender. Rather, their gender is grounded in what they are as human beings and in their biological gender. And so that's a very important point to note. And so if you are teaching, especially young people, through this catechism, it might be good just to point those things out. And again, appropriate to the age to which you're teaching. Another one of our Baptist confessions, an older one, and upon which Adam Morell bases the Young Baptist Catechism, is the Baptist Confession of 1689. And in chapter 6, paragraph 1, this is what it has to say in relationship to this question. Quote, although God created man upright and perfect, and gave him a righteous law, which had been unto life, had he kept it, and threatened death upon the breach thereof, yet he did not long abide in dishonor. Satan, using the subtlety of the serpent to subdue Eve, then by her seducing Adam, who, without any compulsion, did willfully transgress the law of their creation. End quote. Now, in later questions, we are going to be dealing more so with the matter of sin and its entry into our created realm. But for now, it's good for us to be reminded of the fact that when God created Adam and Eve, he had made a covenant with them. And in that covenant, he gave them a series of commands and obligations which they were to fulfill. And that if they would have kept that, they would have enjoyed fellowship with him forever. However, due to their breach and their breaking of that covenant, that's what brought about sin into our world. And so this is just a little bit of a preview of what we will be looking at in later questions. And so again, the question is, who made you? Answer, God made me. Let's look at some other scriptures. Exodus 20 verse 11 says, "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy." That's Exodus 20 verse 11. Now I want to point out something here, which I think is very important as we deal with this fourth question. And that is evolution and Christianity, are they compatible? Well, we can note that evolution suggests we descended from a common ancestor. But there are three weaknesses in evolutionary thinking, and I just want to point them out to you briefly. First, there isn't enough time for evolution, even if you have millions and billions of years. Second, if we came about by natural processes and chance mutations, we would not know if that were true, since naturalistic theories do not factor into things like truth. And then thirdly, human beings cannot claim to be special if we came from the same stuff as germs and bugs. Now, if you are teaching children or young people, it will be up to you whether or not you want to deal with this particular topic. This is more so for the teacher. After all, I don't think we realize how much we have been exposed to evolutionary thinking. And sadly, more and more quarters in the modern day church are giving away to trying to make evolutionary theory and biblical Christianity to fit together. And quite frankly, they just are not compatible with one another. Psalm 8 verses 3 to 6 reminds us, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have ordained, what is man that you take thought of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than God, and you crown him with glory and majesty. You make him to rule over the works of your hands, and you've put all things under his feet." Acts 17:26-28 reminds us, "And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, that they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and exist, as even some of your own poets have said, for we also are his children." And so today's question once more is this: who made you? Answer: God made me. And so this is Pastor Malin Smith, and I look forward to exploring the next question in our continuing study through the Young Baptist Catechism. May God bless you.